It is St.
But I do
Patrick's
have
Day.
this from last night. My mask from
Oh, yes.
our Megillah and Margarita meeting event last night. Do you want to wait another couple minutes, or shall we hop right in? I see it's only 4:01.
We can, let's wait.
Yeah, let's give it a couple of minutes more and for people to sign in. And thank you so much, Kim and Jane, for doing this presentation for us.
I'm happy to be here.
I see Marcia nodding, and she was an impetus for
Yes.
doing something in this area.
Thank you, Marcia.
Marcia is a big proponent, and I got texts and emails and phone calls. I said, okay, I will do it. And Darlene had the perfect answer. And I'm so glad.
Yeah.
So, and I had the privilege of sitting at the same table as Jane last night. And that
Yes,
was
that was wonderful.
It was a fun night. It really was.
It was
Few
very fun.
margaritas
It
helped,
was very
whether they
fun.
had alcohol in them or not.
So are you able to enable the participant screen sharing so I can show my presentation? Are you the host?
Wait,
Judy,
Can you
yes.
speak up a little?
I want to know, let's see who's the host. It may be,
There was a note that you were now the host, Judy.
oh, so you'd like me, oh, I see there.
So you
I
need
missed that note.
to make Jane a co-host for her to be
Yes.
able to do screen sharing.
Yes.
I talk a good game. I can't do it. but
I was going to say,
Yeah, I'm
look who's
impressed
telling
with
me.
the technical
but-
capability.
I was going to say, if you can teach, that's good.
Okay, and I'm able to share my screen, so that's great news. You just tell me when.
Well, why don't we
Did
start?
I sign in before there was an introduction?
Jane,
No.
I'm having trouble with Jane's sound coming through.
Yeah,
clearly.
Jane, you need to get
Is
closer.
everybody else? Okay, I'm not the only
Yeah.
one.
No. Yeah, Jane, it
Okay.
sounds a little tinny. I don't know.
It's sort of,
Okay,
Just needs to get
is
closer.
this better?
yes,
Yes.
try it again.
Okay, wonderful. Okay.
So
Testing,
Jane and
testing,
Kim,
everyone can
pick
hear
who's
me?
going to introduce themselves first. So we know not
I-
only who you are, but
Okay, I am going to go first. I'm going to try to get this up on my screen as a slideshow. And please let me know when you can see.
yes,
Can everyone
perfect.
see our presentation? Very good.
Jane, would you give us a little
Okay.
background on yourself?
Sure. So I'm Jane Nichol. I have been with Temple Judea for about 15 years. I currently serve on the board, and I am co-chair of social action. I started People of the Yarn, and I lead the green team. And in that capacity, I also represent Temple Judea in various coalitions. We have the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, or RACCA, which is very active in environmental policy and environmental justice. The Los Angeles Faith and Ecology Network, the Interfaith Solidarity Network of the San Fernando Valley Eco Justice Team, which is a mouthful, and Councilmember Blumenfield recently started a community action team focused on habitat restoration. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get the temple involved in those activities. I work as a healthcare analyst, but sustainability is my passion, and I spend most of my waking hours thinking about sustainability. I'm a real tree hugger. So shall we get started on the presentation?
Sure. But Kim, let's have Kim give us two minutes on herself.
Okay, I'm I'm Kimberly Daniel, and I am Darlene Daniel's daughter-in-law and David's wife, and most importantly, Sarah's mom. And I have been an environmental advocate since my early college years when I started scuba diving, and explored that world and what we're doing to it. And it wasn't as bad then as it is now. And got involved with the Dolphin Project and various other environmental things a long time ago when we had the cans with the plastic holders that we would have to clip so we didn't hurt the wildlife. That was back in the 80s. And so I've just kind of done this recreationally, we'll call it that, most of my life. And currently, the thing I've found is when you want to create change, the best way to do it is to be part of a collective. So I work consistently with the National Resources Defense Council and the National Parks Conservation Association. So those are the two. I like to narrow my focus because there's so many environmental things, you can't do them all. So those are the two that I work with consistently and advocate with our government to make change that way. And I'm delighted that Temple Judea has signed on to be a sustainable collective group also.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, Jane.
Thank you, Kim. All right, so our vision is that Temple Judea is going to be a sustainable Jewish community. So first off, Chag Purim Sameach and happy St. Patrick's Day. And thank you again for inviting us here today. So you may be asking, what is the Green Team? We are a group of environmentally minded congregants committed to creating awareness about environmental issues, hosting educational and hands-on opportunities for involvement, reducing the temple's environmental footprint, and working with environmental organizations in our community. And why are we doing this? Well, our environmental values are Jewish values. Here are some of the commandments and principles related to the environment that we see in our teachings. Tikkun Olam, of course, at the very core of Judaism is repairing the world. The commandment of Bal Tashchit commands us to avoid wasteful or harmful consumption. We all know L'dor Vador, and that's a concern for the future and our children and our children's children. Levada, Ol Shomra, and Shomrei Adamah tell us to be good stewards of the earth. And Pekuah Nefesh puts human life above all else. And why should Temple Judea in particular be concerned? Our beautiful campus was built with sustainability in mind. That was the vision of Rabbi Gur 10 years ago, and we're fortunate to be in such a beautiful and sustainable place. Our green practices are good for the planet and for human health and set a good example for our young people. Our rituals and celebrations are holy and should not negatively impact the earth. And this yet is another area in which Temple Judea can be a community leader. The environment is a huge and complicated topic. There's a lot of bad news on the environmental front, but there's also a lot of good news. And today we're going to focus on the positive. There is action across all sectors and all levels. For example, California passed sweeping legislation to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The RAC and members of Temple Judea and our entire Jewish community fought very hard for this legislation a couple years ago, which shows that activism can make things happen. The law sets a target to achieve 100% renewable electricity by 2045. And there are many efforts underway to accelerate that timeline. We also have legislation phasing out the sale of new internal combustion engine cars. So supposedly we won't be selling new gasoline powered cars by 2030, which is a very ambitious goal. You may not know that Los Angeles is the largest urban oil field in the country. And the drilling does occur mostly in low-income communities of color. However, in the past year, both the county and city of Los Angeles voted to phase out oil extraction, again, with the support of all communities, including the Jewish community. This is great news. The governor signed an executive order to preserve 30% of California lands by 2030, preserving biodiversity and the ecosystems on which life depends and which makes our state so wonderful. This is actually a global movement, and California is a leader in that we've already established that goal and are working towards it. There are new laws to reduce organic waste or our food waste, including curbside composting, which we're going to talk about more in detail later. And while plastics are an intractable, tragic, unimaginable problem, California did pass 5 important bills in the last legislative cycle to address plastic pollution, and more are before the state Senate and Assembly this year. There will also be a sweeping ballot measure addressing the plastic crisis on the November ballot, which we as a community, again, can support and try to make a difference on. And California just launched a revolutionary plan to clean up microplastics. So on the positive front, businesses are going green, cities are going green, and Temple Judea is going green. Our Board of Trustees unanimously approved our Green Team's environmental policy document earlier this year. This document affirms our commitment to the environment. We're working on an expanded recycling program. We're phasing out single-use plastics, and we're looking into making sure the products we use for landscaping and cleaning don't harm the environment. I'm sure, as you know, this is a continuum. It's going to take us a while to get there. For those of us who were at last night's event, we know there was a lot of plastic. We know that we generated a lot of waste, but we need to learn from what we're doing and move on in a positive way. We have some efforts specifically to address plastics that are going to start as early as next week. Plus, in the coming months, we have a number of exciting activities. We have a webinar next week on the proposed changes to rooftop solar in California, which unfortunately remove the incentives for most people and make rooftop solar virtually unaffordable. So we're trying to educate our community on all sides of the issue. The current rate structure is far from perfect, but it's enabled the installation of rooftop solar on more than 1 million homes in California. During Earth Week, we're going to have our 4th annual e-waste collection. We're going to host a shade tree giveaway at our Mitzvah Day, and we're looking at an upcycling initiative as well, which takes our discarded, unwanted items and transforms them into things with much greater value. We are working across the Temple community and with all of our groups and initiatives to strengthen this effort and for their ideas and support. And we're thrilled to be part of TJVillage and to work with all of you. And as Temple members and individuals, we can all play a role. Big things like putting solar panels on your home and buying an electric car, or better yet, moving somewhere where you don't have to drive at all, are fantastic, but may not be feasible. But the changes that we can make every day are also very important. One change that affects all of us is the food we eat. One of the most impactful things we can do is eat with the planet in mind. This graph shows the daily greenhouse gas emissions associated with different types of diets. The actual numbers are kind of hard to grasp, but you can see that the vegetarian and vegan diets are associated with far fewer emissions than the meat-based diets. And no one's saying we need to give up meat altogether, but if everyone in the US skipped meat for a day, it would save 1 billion gallons of water, 70 million gallons of gasoline and the associated greenhouse gas emissions, and 3 million acres of land, which is the size of Delaware. Kashrut encourages mindful eating, and we can be mindful of the planet when we choose our foods. This slide shows that not all foods and not all animal proteins are created equal. So when we look at this, we see that poultry has a far smaller environmental footprint than beef. So when we have our festive holiday dinners and our Shabbats, we can choose chicken over brisket and make a positive impact on the planet. Similarly, when we make our lunches for Hope of the Valley, choosing peanut butter and jelly over a meat-based sandwich saves the equivalent of 3.5 pounds of greenhouse gas emissions, 280 gallons of water, 12 to 15 square feet of land from deforestation, overgrazing, and fertilizer production. Sustainable food choices can be a topic in and of itself, and perhaps we'll be able to come back and talk to you about this in a future presentation. Here's a favorite quote from historian Howard Zinn. "Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world." We truly believe that, and we're going to show you some of the ways that we all can make a difference. And now I'm going to hand the presentation over to Kim, my great friend and Green Team champion, who we've already established exemplifies sustainability day in and day out. So take it away, Kim.
Thank you, Jane. If you can stay as my slide changer, I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, so a little bit about how I started on this journey here in California. I began to change things related to water because of course water is short here. So we got rain barrels and I was stunned at the volume of water that comes off our roof. So we had 2 rain barrels at one point. One of them was free from the city, created mold inside, and we got rid of it, purchased one that was opaque, sticking with the one for now. Then we added an outdoor compost bin and we composted on our kitchen counter and took it out to the outdoor compost bin. Then we read some things and watched some videos on cancer because we've had several family members who've dealt with cancer and that related to diet. So we began to gradually change our diet to see if we liked it, and we liked it. So we switched to pescatarian probably 2 or 3 years ago now. I've lost count because we've just changed and we're not perfect. And the message I want to get across to everyone is living sustainably. There is not one path or one product or one way, and it's an educational journey, and you enter at your comfort point and then you add as you learn more. So we will be reevaluating how we live life when we make our move to townhome area and seeing how we can apply what we've learned to that situation. So I encourage you all not to feel guilt or shame or embarrassment or any negative feeling about being a more sustainable living person. The very important part of sustainable living is consumables, the things we buy every day and use up. There are a lot of different products and the market is catching up with consumer demand for more sustainable living. So we're excited about that. One of the things that is very common that most people know about is recycling. So we'll start there. The oil and gas industry, next slide, Jane. The oil and gas industry has sort of lied to us about recycling. Some things work and some things don't. So really sorting out what works and what doesn't has been a very difficult task. And I attend a lot of seminars and a lot of webinars, and I'm still learning about that. The things we can recycle, we need to recycle properly. So we have to make sure that paper, cardboard, plastics, metals, and glass are all clean and that they go into the blue bin. And we don't want to bag them. I see a lot of people putting them in opaque bags, black or white, And that just causes further confusion and will tend to be tossed into the landfill. So don't bag your recyclables, keep them loose. It saves money and they won't go into the landfill. And then there are difficult products to recycle like batteries and foam and hoses and canisters and these plastic grocery bags, which recycling centers call the menace. Any kind of plastic like your toilet paper, big jumbo toilet paper at Costco that has that shrink wrap plastic on it. The industrial recycling centers hate that because it gets caught in their mechanical gears and they literally have to take a box cutter, turn off the machines, cut the plastic out, and then turn the machines back on. So the more we can reduce the use of those plastic bags or any of that shrink wrap plastic, the better. There are some places like Home Depot who takes the batteries and the grocery bags. And I know for electronic waste, Best Buy will take it even if you didn't buy it there. So we will have a discussion at the end of this and people will let us know more places they've found, but trying to be mindful of what can be recycled and what can't, and that will change with the state changing. We'll keep you updated on education as much as we can. Next slide.
Can I ask a question on this
Let's
slide?
hold the questions till the end.
Well, only because it's on this particular slide.
Okay.
So if you go back on the plastics, are those indicators, does the plastic have to have those indicators of 1, 2, or 5? And
Yes,
if they
that's a good
don't, then they should not go into the recycle bin.
Right. If it's not a 1, 2, or 5, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, it has to go into the trash because our city does not have facilities to recycle the other numbers at this time.
Thank you.
Right, and this is new guidance from the city. Unfortunately, recycling is a moving target, so that makes it even more challenging to do the right thing.
Right. Okay. So I learned in January about SB 1383. I had never heard of it before. I thought it was a new law because it went into took effect January 1st, 2022. As I researched it more, because people were asking me questions about it, I found out it's not actually new. Back in September of 2016, it was adopted. Then they set several years to make this go into effect for the state of California. Then you narrow down to the county of Los Angeles. And our county of Los Angeles may be the last one to actually implement this because it's so big. Other counties will implement before the county of Los Angeles will. But in January of 2019, there were 2 years of formal rulemaking, and that ended and the formal rulemaking began. They all agreed on what the rules were. By late 2019, the regulations were adopted, and oops, I lost the slide. Jane, can you put the slideshow back up? Oh.
Jane, you're muted.
Yeah. I think she's getting it. There we go. So by January 1st of 2020, they decided a 50% reduction in organic waste disposal needs to happen. But it took until, it's going to take until January 2025 to actually make it happen. And I was watching a webinar recently that said they're really pushing to try and meet this deadline. But by January 1st, 2024, regulations require local governments to take enforcement on taking food waste and putting it in our blue bins instead of throwing it in the trash. Because when you throw it in the trash, it goes to a landfill and it creates methane. And methane, of course, is a very bad thing for our environment. The only problem with that is it takes industrial waste facilities, recycling facilities, to handle the food waste in the blue bin. And we only have about 1/3 of the industrial recycling plants that we need to meet the demand for Los Angeles County. So they're going to be working hard to build industrial recycling plants so that we can meet the January 1st, 2025 deadline to reduce 75% of our organics disposal. And restaurants are working on this too. And in our email we will send out after the presentation, we'll let you know about a restaurant that recycles all of their waste food. And it's a beautiful thing. So I frequent that restaurant whenever possible. They also want a 20% increase in edible food recovery. So that will be up to many, many changes that we will stay on top of and try and keep you informed with the city as we move forward to this 2025 deadline. So if you're throwing your food waste into your blue bin right now in Los Angeles County, it's going to a landfill. So don't do it yet. If you're in Ventura County, I've heard they have actually implemented it. So you can put your food waste in your blue bin in Ventura County. Okay, next slide. And this is the type of foods that can be put in your blue bin when we give you the okay to go ahead with the city. So pizza boxes that even if they have a little bit of food stains are okay. And then any of the organic foods are fine. Cardboard, coffee filters, things like that, flowers, all of that's fine to put into the blue bin when they implement the program.
Right. And in LA City, just point of information, it's green bin.
It's the green bin. Okay. That's another link we'll also share with you. There is a video on YouTube about the different color bins, and one of them is going to be a divided bin that different counties will use. So each county will have different color bins, which is not confusing unless you live on the border of a county, and then it is. Because it'll go in one county, it'll go to one industrial recycling facility, and right next door, it'll go to a different industrial recycling facility. And the bins will be different colors. But if you're not on the border, you're okay. All right, next. So another thing we can all do is shop wisely. And this is an education in and of itself. Again, there is no one right product. There is no one way to shop, but we'll show you what we know. One of the things you want to do is look for plastic-free packaging, of course. Think 1950s grocery store aisles. Before plastic took over, those were beautiful aisles. And so you want to look for your cardboard packaged or paper packaged products and glass. Recycled packaging is important, or packaging that can be recyclable. And tree-free papers. We're clear cutting our forests and we have to stop. So we're looking for recyclable papers or tree-free papers like bamboo. I'm showing an example here in the slide of Clean People, which is my laundry detergent. It comes in a cardboard box. It's a sheet. The water has been taken out of the soap, and you just drop the sheet into your washing machine. The water activates the soap, and then you just recycle the box. And this particular size box will last me about a month. I get my cleaners for the floor and the countertops from Grove. You can also get them in Target. They come in a small glass bottle and cardboard packaging and a glass spray bottle. And you mix your own and add your own water. And one of the things I didn't realize until I started doing this is if you're adding filtered water from your tap, you're cleaning with better water than if you're adding your regular faucet water. So you can control your water as you clean too, and how clean it is. The food storage bags are compostable. They're still plastic looking, but they're green and they can go in your home compost bin. The Kleenex box looking thing there is actually cardboard. It's also from Grove. It's made from bamboo, and they plant trees for all the products you buy. And the striped thing is a company called Who Gives a Crap, which some people find funny and other people find offensive. But they come, it's bamboo toilet paper, but they also have recycled paper, not if you don't want the bamboo. They're both soft enough, no problem. And they come in paper wrappers instead of that shrink wrap plastic. So they're all great alternatives to what you normally buy, and they're all reasonably priced. Okay. So what's so bad about plastic? Well, first of all, it was touted as the great product that would solve all our problems back when I was in my teens and 20s. It's fossil fuel based, it contains harmful chemicals, and it sheds microfibers. And these microfibers get into everything, our ground, our ocean, our fish eat them, we eat the fish. We eat microplastics all the time and don't realize it. And the microplastics get in your system. And with time, it changes your DNA actually. So it's really, really, really bad. So we have to move away from the disposable plastic society. Go ahead. Shopping zero waste. This is something that's kind of hard to understand. We've heard shop zero waste a lot. Zero waste living aims to use only that which can be reused or composted instead of sent to landfills or incinerated. So that's what zero waste living really is. Again, we showed you the cleaning products that can be purchased at the Grove or various other places, and your containers are recyclable and you use glass instead of plastic for your spray bottles. Next. Laundry, again, is another place where you can change how you work. The Clean People Sheets work for me. You want to avoid the plastic pods. First of all, a lot of them are very toxic. They've been very dangerous for children, and they don't dissolve. Now, because companies are catching on, there are some plastic pods that are plant-based and disintegrate in the wash. So it's getting better, but you need to make sure your plastic pod is plant-based and not plastic-based. And then dryer balls are a wonderful thing that I'm going to switch to soon instead of dryer sheets. And you can put a few drops of essential oil on it and toss them in your dryer with your clothes, and everything smells good and takes the static out, and you're not throwing away sheets consistently. Okay, next. Food storage. This is a challenging thing. I started out with all the Tupperware like we all did, and the kits, and they're great. But over time, they shed those microplastics also, and they wear out, and they absorb food odors. So you want to gradually convert your Tupperware over to glass containers. The problem is those have plastic lids still and a rubber gasket. You have to really clean the rubber gasket or it will mold. And you still have to recycle the plastic lid, but it's better than all plastic. Beeswax wraps are great. The thing you don't want to do, I found out the hard way, is use a beeswax wrap with anything warm, even warm, much less hot, because the wax melts. So use it only on cold things, on bowls. They're especially good for when you bake a loaf of bread, homemade bread, to wrap that. It keeps the bread fresh, and it's great. And then silicone lids are very popular right now. They're all different sizes. They stretch, they work pretty well and create a pretty tight seal. They will tear if you're not careful. So you have to be careful with those. Next. And the other thing we can all do is repurpose. So you don't always need to buy something new to hold things. You can wash your jelly jars and your spaghetti jars, anything like that, and then store things in them, and you can see them. So you're not overbuying because you can see what you've got. They're chemical free. They can be sterilized, and it's just a smart thing to do is repurpose your glass bottles. One of the things on the subject of glass and containers is there's a company that Jane and I would like to get a field trip together for if anybody's interested, called Prostainable. They have offices here, stores here in Woodland Hills, and I think they just opened one in the Northern Valley. I think it's Chatsworth, but I'll have to check. They sell containers, and you can refill your household cleaners there and even sunscreen. Or you can bring your own container and refill it there. I have not yet been there, but I have friends who shop there, and it just makes sense rather than buying these products off the store constantly to keep the same container and refill it. So that's an exciting field trip we would love to have you all go on with us if you're interested. Another thing I have transitioned from is plastic toothbrushes. I use a bamboo toothbrush that's pictured on the left. And they come with white bristles, black bristles, which is a charcoal that's actually very good for your teeth, but it looks funny. And it doesn't leave black on your teeth. It's just a bristle. Or they have multicolor ones with different color bristles also. And so throwing away toothbrushes, it's a huge plastic problem, as you can imagine. Changing from the plastic toothpaste tubes. This is something I hope to do in our next home, because I don't want to start a subscription and then move, is the Unpaste, or there's another company called Bite, and they're little tablets of toothpaste. And so you just pop it in your mouth, chew it up, creates the toothpaste, and you brush with your toothbrush and rinse as usual. And you're saving a lot of plastic that way. A friend of mine got the glass floss container. She loved it. It was very retro, which is right up her alley. The challenge is the floss is not the same as I use Glide right now. And it's not as strong as Glide, and it tends to snap. So they're still working on the floss for it, but the container is a great idea. And that's right back to the 1950s when we used to have those containers. So sometimes going back is good. Next.
Jeez.
So more on the zero waste. Another thing I did was I got rid of the plastic shampoo bottles and cream rinse bottles and used these bar shampoos and conditioners. They just look like a bar of soap, but it's your shampoo and your conditioner without the water, condensed down into a bar. And they have all different kinds. They have moisturizing, they have volumizing, they have special ones for gray hair. So if you look, there are a lot of different places that sell these shampoo and conditioner bars. So you're saving and not throwing away those big, giant plastic shampoo bottles that we all tend to buy for savings. And razors, the disposable plastic razors are a huge waste. Over 2 billion are thrown out a year. So try and get a reusable base. You're still having to throw away the blades, but the more we go this direction, the more recycling centers are going to recycle the metal blades. So the consumer drives the businesses, and this is what we need to do, is head to where we're driving them to recycle even the blades. Next. So trees, look for FSC certification, and FSC stands for Forest Stewardship Council. And so they are checking to make sure we're not destroying our forests with our paper usage. You also want to look for certified B, which is B Lab, and that is certification from a third party that has standards requiring to make sure it can, what am I trying to say? To make sure companies are meeting social sustainability and environmental performance standards. And they have to be clear with the public on how these standards are being met and the score they receive also. So you always want to look for certified B. And the center, what am I trying to say? Kleenex box. They also plant trees for each product you buy. This is Seedling by Grove. And you can get bamboo paper towels, or you can get recycled paper on all these products. So bamboo is a new one that I wanted to try, and it's very sustainably grown, but it really depends on where it's grown, how much land it takes up, and how much water it uses to grow that. So the New York Times rated 7th generation 100% recycled paper as the best sustainable toilet paper. So it really is, you have to read and keep following because the products are changing. Next. The other simple things that we can all do is go reusable. Everybody should be bringing their own reusable coffee mug to Temple Judea. We shouldn't be throwing them out. And Starbucks is jumping on that bandwagon now. They're doing away with their iconic paper cups and offering, which they have offered for some time, reusable cups for sale. When you go through the drive-through, bring your reusable cup, take the lid off, hand the cup to them. They will put your beverage in and hand it back to you. And then you put your cup back on and go. They don't want to touch your lid because that's not sanitary. So that's the only thing you have to do is take your lid off before you hand it to them. But they will definitely reuse your cup or one of their recyclable cups. And when you dine out, take those glass containers that you have replaced from your Tupperware and ask them, just take it in a canvas bag with you, and then ask them at the end of your meal to put your food in that. Or if they say you can do it, then you just tell them, I'd like to put my leftovers in these containers, and they'll be fine with it because it's not coming into their kitchen. So they're fine with you taking it away in your own container. And then at the dry cleaners, if you can find reusable or compostable garment bags, that's a better way to go than all these plastic sheets that go over the clothes and cling to everything and are really bad for pets. I think there's somebody at the temple who's a temple member who also sells these. So at the produce aisle, I found out a week ago that the little green bags that you put produce in at Trader Joe's are home compostable, which is great, except it's still a plastic bag that's having to be composted. So if you have 5 shopping bags per trip, this example shows you, you're getting 200 plus flimsy plastic bags. Temple Judea was 600 households, so it'd be 150,000 bags. LA, 1 million household, 1.5 million households, 350 million bags. California, 13 million households, 325 billion bags. And you go on to trillions when you get to the US. So why is my question? You can use a reusable bag, and Trader Joe's also sells reusable net bags, which are like $1 or $2. They're very cheap. And I take mine with me every time and put it inside my insulated bag that I get from Trader Joe's, and I put my produce in that. So it really is the way to go. And we can just do without those green bags entirely. So another thing that's really hard to do, but important to do, is change what you use. When you walk your dog, don't take those little plastic bags with the leash container and a plastic holder. Take some folded up newspapers in a canvas bag. And when your pet goes, pick it up with newspaper, put it in a different canvas bag, take it home, put it in your trash. That way you're not using the pest weight bags or encouraging companies to sell those plastic leash holders, and we're not using trash can liners. Repurpose paper towels. There are a lot of companies that are selling these microfiber cloths instead of disposable cleaning wipes, which I have to admit, we used some during the pandemic. So again, don't beat yourself up if you fall off the wagon. And paper towels. So anytime you can use a microfiber rag rather than throwing away paper towels, do it. If you need that paper towel for a really messy pet deal, use that, but you're not using it for the bulk of how you use things. Real dishes and tableware are always the way to go. We've really gotten away from that, and we need to get back to it. If you have disposable plates, try and use something that can be compostable. If you use plasticware, which I have and I do, keep it and wash it and reuse it. Because the birthday party, you've got some nice plasticware and you don't want to use it once and throw it away. There will be other birthday parties. So save it and wash it in soap and water. It's really will make a huge difference. I froze again. There we go. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So being mindful is the main thing in home consumables, is really thinking about what we do. Is there a lower waste alternative? These floss picks are very popular, but part of the problem is, can it be recycled? This kind of poses as environmentally good. It says made with only 40% plastic. Well, it's still plastic. It doesn't matter if it's 40% or 100%, you're still throwing away plastic. And it can be recycled because it's a 1, 2, or a 5, But if it's mixed material, and you never know what your plastics are, truthfully, and if it's smaller than a credit card, you can't recycle it. So don't use it. Floss works around 2 fingers. You have more control. Just use the fingers and the floss. And that way you're not falling for products that are masquerading being green. The alternatives marketplace. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that, well, you've got a sustainable alternative, but is it really? A lot of them, as we said, require this industrial composting, which we don't have enough facilities to handle the problems we have now, and they produce methane in the landfill. It's better to use non-disposable, and bioplastics have questionable benefit. And I actually looked up the description of bioplastics because I've heard it a lot, and I'm not sure most people know what it is, but bioplastics are plastic materials produced from renewable biomass sources such as vegetable fats and oils, cornstarch, straw, wood chips, sawdust, and recycled food waste. So once you get into combining that many different materials, you're not sure that there's not toxic things mixed in with those materials. So bioplastics are very questionable to me. I would rather avoid plastics entirely. Even it's better to go toward more natural based plastics, but I think we can do much better than that. So the basic message is reduce, reuse, recycle, repair, repurpose, refill, and most importantly, rethink how you do things and where they're going to go when you're through using them, because that's the most important thing, is where is this going when I'm finished with it? So that's our presentation, and we will have questions if anybody has questions now.
I see you have a question, Judy. Your hand's up.
Jane and Kim, I don't know if you can see me because now I'm on my phone.
Yes.
I can see you.
Okay, so you covered so much material. And I
we've
was
had a lot.
thinking, oh no, it's fantastic. But I was thinking maybe weekly in the Judean, you could give just something, there should be a spot for you people. So all of us can follow what you're telling us, like a little blurb from one of your slides or something.
A little eco tip.
Yeah.
We would love to do that. We would love to do that. I know that
That's a
my
great
sister's
idea.
congregation is celebrating the Shemitah year as an opportunity to really introduce the congregation to what it means to be sustainable. And they have publications that are going out that focus on different areas of living. And we would love the opportunity to do that. So we'll approach Kim and the powers that be and see what we can put out. Thanks for that recommendation.
I was just thinking there's so much that I want to remember, but it's going to take time and
It does
processing.
take
I think we can
time.
also put together a summary sheet. And yes, there is a tremendous amount of information, and it's challenging to wade through it all.
It's not only
Marie?
challenging to wade through it all, but it's challenging to keep up with it because, as I said, the market is changing as people demand more. And so technology is coming up with some wonderful alternatives, but trying to keep up with legislation and products is dizzying sometimes. But the trick is to pick one thing that intrigues you or interests you or makes you say, I'd like to do that, and start there. And don't be overwhelmed with all of it. As you start the path, then you begin to add things when you're ready for them. And it really is when you're ready on your journey of sustainability.
I was
Marie,
also
your
just,
hand's up? Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was just thinking when I saw the glass containers and I thought, and the repurposing and reusing them, I thought that's what I did as a kid. That's what I did for so long until maybe Tupperware.
Right.
Judy, you can't see, but 2 other hands are up.
Yeah, can you We
Murray
share
has-
the-
Murray,
Do we want to
Did you
go
wanna ask
off
a
screen
question?
share and?
Get the gal, yeah, let's get off the sharing so we can see everybody. There, great, thank you.
Great.
I had a question.
Murray is
I
muted.
think
Muted.
Murray's asking a question. We can't hear you.
I had a question. Can you hear me?
I had my hand up for a while.
Oh, Marge, I'm sorry, I did too. Come on.
You're
Hear you.
Yes, I think
Could-
we'll
I
go
couldn't
Murray
see.
and then Marge and then Marcia.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Murray,
can you
I
hear,
think we can hear you now.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, now.
Okay, so how do I determine if the plastic is either a 1, 2, or 5 that you were talking about when Jerry asked the question earlier in the presentation?
You will be able to find a number somewhere on your bottle, and it's not always easy to find. And I have a giant magnifying glass to help me identify what the number is. So that
Okay, so I'm
that is
holding
just
up,
a
I'm holding
regular-
up a, I'm
It
holding
should
up
be
a
on the bottom
plastic,
of
a
that.
plastic
Should
container.
be on the bottom.
Is should it be on every plastic container?
Yes, and it should be on the bottom usually. The little
Right.
triangle.
You might need
And it-
some.
Yeah, it's hard to see. You may need a magnifying glass.
They are hard to see. If you don't have a child nearby, then you might need a magnifying glass.
So it's a
Well, like
1,
it.
2, or 5 only?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Correct, and that changed. That changed recently. The city has not yet updated its guidance, but the state of California has updated its guidance. It used to be you could recycle 1 through 7, you could recycle plastic film, you could basically throw anything in the blue bin, but that has changed. So now 1, 2, or 5, clean and dry, water bottles, juice bottles, milk containers should have the lid on them. And again, as Kim said before, not in bags. That will save you money, and that will also facilitate recycling. So Margie had a question?
Yes, I do. The business of washing everything out is supposed to be clean. So on those soft plastics like the cottage cheese, you know, my water bill is humongous as it is. And that's what drives me crazy, trying to getting everything clean. And I figure out how much dirt am I allowed to keep in a container here?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be impeccable, but it should not have food in it. So, you know, to the best of your ability, scrape it out. I put my containers that are bound for the recycle in the sink, and when I'm rinsing off other things, I let it collect. You know, you don't have to go crazy cleaning something, but it should not have food in it.
If it has a lot of food in it, what I do is take a spatula and scoop it out into the trash first and then rinse it. And that helps save some of the water. But I also save it for the dishes that I do every night and just save it till the end. I do the dishes first and then I do those last. And I put them on the side of the drain rack where I have the pad and just let those dry separately from my dishes.
Thank you.
Marcia?
I just wanted to get your opinion about the use of the reusable plastic for storage, particularly in the refrigerator for vegetables and fruit and assorted things. I've stopped using the throwaway plastic bags and I've bought an assortment of these. They are made out of plastic, obviously, but they're reusable. So how effective is this?
Well, certainly better than a lot of disposable.
Right.
You
I
know,
mean, I
we-
use
we are
glass containers too.
It's a
Mhm.
step in the right direction. They
Yeah.
also have some cloth bags that are coated in so that you can, they're like sandwich bags and vegetable bags that have a Velcro that are a step better than the plastic, but the plastic that's reusable is a step in the right direction, definitely.
Right. Well, that's a step I've made.
Yeah.
I've had my hand up.
Darlene?
Yes, I've had my hand up because I wanted to suggest, I put it in the chat earlier, but I think that probably both you, Jane and Kim, have been preoccupied with what you're telling us and with the group dynamic. So I'll repeat it here. It would be great if you would send your PowerPoint to Rabbi Cantor Bloom. And I've made a list of the small but very interested people, a number of people who have been on the screen this afternoon. If you send the PowerPoint to Rabbi Bloom, I'll give her the list of who to circulate it to. And anyone who watches the recording later and would like to have the PowerPoint, they could send Rabbi Bloom an email requesting it. So she is,
Sure, we can.
she's lbloom@templejudea.com.
Okay, we can also post it on the Green Team page. We do have a page. Unfortunately, I'm not able to edit it, but
Oops, you're cutting in and out, Jane.
so it'll be accessible.
Your voice was cutting in and out. Jane. We heard that that you could post it on the Green Team page, but that you don't have editing capacity yourself for that.
Not at the moment, but we're working on that. So we can post it there.
Well, this has been truly wonderful in terms of the content.
Excellent.
It's given us a lot of good information and ways to follow up, and so valuable. I know that we will be sharing that experience with other people and encouraging them to watch the recording on the Temple YouTube channel.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a pleasure to be here. And as Kim said, we're hoping to do a field trip to Prostainable. If anyone's interested in joining us, it would be a lot of fun. A group of us are going to be inventorying all of the silverware and dishes that we have in the catering closet. So I hope that you'll start seeing more reusables at Temple forward. We have our Kiddush cup recycling, so we hope that when our onegs start again, we'll be able to bring that back. If anybody has great ideas for non-plastic Kiddush cups, we're open to recommendations. That one's a tough one. Back in the day, we used to use the little white pleated paper. The genie's out of the bottle. No one wants to go back to that. But Kim and I are always thinking about ways to move away from plastics and reduce our footprint and go sustainable. So any ideas you have, we'd love to hear. Judy?
I just wondered, when you have that wax coating on things, I was thinking about like the Dixie cups, that some of them have it, some of them don't have it anymore, which I hope they don't, but still, is that a possibility for you, for Kiddush cups?
We'll need to look into that. There was a new law passed in California that prohibits the use of some of the coatings on the papers. Maybe that moving forward, that becomes a moot point. As we mentioned, there are new laws all the time. Very challenging to keep up with them. In general, if you can tear it, you can compost it. Coatings do make it recyclable, but we'll look at.
You're cutting out again.
Okay.
Jane.
So Kim and Jane, I don't know if there are any more questions or comments, but I want to thank you both so much for saying yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for
And
having us.
we're pleased you came. And Jane, you might be the host now since I lost electricity. So you might be the one who has to end the meeting.
Oh, so do I guess I stop the recording? I don't want to ruin anything here.
If you can, I know Rabbi Bloom started it. I don't know if you can stop it or if she's just going to let it run out at a certain time.
I believe I can. Is there any way for you to take the host? I'm not sharing anymore, so I don't know. Oh, did you have to drop and call in?
Thank you all.
Yes, I had, yeah,
You.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Great to see
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
I
So I'm
think,
gonna,
Jane, if you end meeting will be okay. And from what Rabbi Bloom said at the beginning of the meeting.
okay, so I'm gonna stop recording and hope for the best. And thank you again. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
both Jane and Jane. It's been terrific.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It was great. It was great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, it's asking me if I want to stop recording to the cloud, and I guess the answer is yes. Or should I just leave?